Okay, so good afternoon to you all, and a warm welcome to you all to this Mobile Heights Toppenkväll on the topic Digital Manufacturing and Smart Logistics for the Future. Today we will hear from three great speakers from NEXER and SONY, and we are really happy to see all of you here, especially considering knowing that this is such a hectic time of the year. There is really a lot of things happening now in November, especially since everyone has saved everything till after the pandemic. So there are many events at the moment which is being organized. Right, so my name is Martin Lundkvist and I'm the head of communications at Mobile Heights. And with me here today I have many of my wonderful Mobile Heights colleagues, and you can find them afterwards, so please stay and mingle, and there might even be some time for you members to ask them what we can do more for you as members and how we can cooperate even more than we are already doing. Right, and for upcoming events, just check our event calendar on the website and follow us on social media. We are both on Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitter, and for the next event, invitations will of course be sent out as usual. So what you can do is please check your inbox. Do you already get our invitations and newsletters? And if not, my advice is to just check your spam, because I know some of your companies have very high firewalls, which means you do not receive it, and which is a pity. So check and see if you can add our emailing address to your contact list, and that might solve the problem. But it's not just one way, it's the other way around as well. So if you want us to share something, you might want us to invite our network to some of your events, or you might have some news that you want to share. Don't hesitate to contact me. I'll be happy to share it for you in our network. Now let's have a quick look at the today's agenda. And we will start with listening a couple of minutes to Ola, and then we will have our speakers, Thorén and Martin Lundkvist from NEXER, who will talk about smart technologies for sustainable e-commerce and efficient logistics. After that, we will listen to Erik Lund from SONY. Unfortunately, Mineta Hodzic is not here today. She had not less than 3 sick children this morning, shouting in the background when she was phoning me, so yeah. We'll save some candy for her, right, Erik? You can bring that to her. So
probably more for the kids, right?
For the kids, yes, for the kids. Right, and Erik is going to talk about creating a sustainable supply chain with IoT. Very interesting. I would like to introduce our CEO of Mobile Heights, Mr. Ola Svedin.
Thank you, Molly. That's a really fine introduction. It's a bit of experiment, isn't it? This time we are restarting a little bit after the pandemic, and Mobile Heights, we are all about digitalization. But even so, we think it's very important that we actually meet in real life, and that we can have these interactions. So, as you mentioned, Molly, this is kind of a bit smaller scale than usually, but I think that we are now entering a new era where people actually will see the need for meeting physically and not only sitting in front of the screen. I, for one, have longed for this. Mobile Heights, we are a cluster organization, as I'm sure all of you know. And as such, we have members. We have today, I think it's 127 members. And we are growing all the time. And I'm very happy today to announce 2 more members to Mobile Heights. It's Ecomal, they are based in Malmö, and they are dealing with electronic components and logistics. And also Benelli. Very interesting small company dealing with, or I should say, developing sensor technologies of different sorts. So really happy to add those to the Mobile Heights community. I also wanted to talk a little bit about what some of the things we do, and that's what we have here on this slide. we have a program that is called, a project that is called DigitHub. And that's an opportunity for small, medium-sized companies, but also actually municipalities. They can apply for getting help, hands-on help with their digitalization project. We have an application round open right now, so and it will close on 1st of December. So if you or you know anybody that would be interested in applying to this program, make sure to check it out or direct them to digithub.se. That's the project homepage. The other thing I wanted to mention is CoSkill. CoSkill is a project that we are doing together with Region Skåne. And what you as a small, medium-sized company can get in CoSkill is actually free training. No ifs and buts, free training. And you can yourself influence the content of that training. So I urge you to check it out if you haven't seen it already. This is a very, very good opportunity. The only thing that the companies that are participating in this project, the only thing they have to commit to is to talk to the project managers in CoSkill in order to find out, for them to find out your training needs. So coskill.se, check it out. The topic for today, so why did we choose to talk about smart logistics today? Well, it's something that it's a fast-moving field, put it this way. There is a lot of things happening in this field right now, and I'm so happy that we have both NEXER and SONY with their VISILION initiative here to talk about it, perhaps from two different ends, if you will, where we have exciting new technology that Sony brings to the table that can solve, that can actually in real life right now solve a lot of the challenges. And NEXER applying technologies such as AR to make sure that we get a more efficient logistics chain. So as you can hear, I'm taking this a little bit from the technology perspective, and that's because we are a tech cluster. So I always like to jump in and you know, look at the technology aspects of this. But of course, it's the overall business that's the important thing. So I'm looking forward to zooming in on some of the technology, but also zooming out to see what does this actually mean for business and for the economy in this. So with that, I hand over to you, Molly.
Thank you very much, Ola. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speakers on stage, which are Caroline Thorén. Caroline is the COO of NEXER Maverick, and Martin Lundkvist, who is the sales manager of Smart Industry.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the great introduction. It's great to be here, and good afternoon, everyone. Correct, we're going to talk about how smart technologies can be used in logistics and in the e-commerce, and how it also can help solving some of the key issues in this pretty big supply chain. So we're going to look at the subject from a different perspective. It's a huge complex system, but we're going to zoom in on some parts of this. We're going to start from the customer perspective, looking at it from the taking a standpoint in the fashion industry, and then we're going to move into one of the critical parts of this chain, the distribution centers, where you see a lot of automation, digitalization, and high speed and high progress. So we're going to show some examples of that. These systems are extremely streamlined. So what happens when customers are not following that mainstream? So Caroline will show some examples of that, and also see how customer behaviors will influence the business, of course, but also the environment. My name is Martin Lundkvist. I work as a business manager at NEXER, working in Smart Industries team. So we are working with advisory services around digitalization with clients from the strategy point of view, through implementation, and all the way to operation.
Great, thanks. And my name is Caroline Thorén. I work as COO at NEXER Maverick, the full-service digital agency within the NEXER family. So, and I've been working within the fashion retail industry for several years. I've been had a leading role in driving H&M digitalization and also online expansion for almost 10 years, and also been working as COO at Nelly.com. So I have handled a lot of the logistical problems during that period of time. And also I have sustainability very close to my heart, so that's something I will also mention and talk about. But NEXER, the tech company of the future. NEXER, I think you know as former Sigma IT. That's we are still a part of the Danier group, and we rebranded us almost, well, it's more than 6 months, February, that's correct. So we have taken a new position. We want to be the partner for our customers in order to make sure that we can help through the digitalization and from idea to actual solution. And we also acquired Carrier's Future just before the summer. 60% of Carrier's Future working with Trend and actually Horizont 1 and 2 in innovation. So we're working in close cooperation in order to help our customers succeed in their journeys. So, yeah, we are part of Danier Group, and we offer a lot of services. And apart from former Sigma IT, we added a lot of strategy competence, and Martin and I are working in that space, and I am also working a lot in the communication area. But we still have the base in tech, so that's our core. So from a consumer perspective then, I mean, we have all seen that bricks and mortar and the stores, they are moving into the digital area and moving online. And the pandemic has pushed this transformation heavily. And the new consumer and customer behavior has been changed permanently. So what does this require from retailers and companies? Of course, there's a huge demand on having a smooth customer experience, no matter what touch point you are meeting your supplier or retailer in. So that's really important. But there are also other demands on the services and products. We are in a climate crisis, and there will be other aspects to consider in the customer journey. So if we're jumping into the fashion industry, a lot of the production in the fashion industry is actually produced in Asia, China. Fashion retail has 10% of the global emissions on a yearly basis. Not a sustainable way. It's mainly waste, water consumption, and emissions. And this is 2 times the aviation industry before the pandemic. So this is not a sustainable way of working. We are over-consuming, for true. So this is one example. This is the RLC. This was the RLC before we started over-consuming, and this is the RLC today. This used to be one of the largest seas in the world. So that's not good. And what has also been an effect of the new customer behavior is the product returns. A lot of product returns. You can see in Sweden, the average fashion retailer has 60% product returns. You need to sell the same t-shirt or dress several times before you actually sell it. And why do customers behave like that? Well, it's because the companies have policies for free deliveries, free returns, next day deliveries. I remember when we asked our customers at the H&M, do you want a next day delivery? What do you think they answered? Of course, yes. Do they pick up their package that same day? No, they don't. So we need to make sure that we have the right demand and make it in a sustainable way. So this is not only the consumer's blame, but also how we manage the business. So in order to have a sustainable business or a good business, you need to have a win-win situation down the line. You need to be able to have the cotton producer needs to be able to have a good business, as well as the manufacturer, the garment industry, and the e-com merchant. But what has happened? I mean, this is because all parts of the chain need to be able to invest in new productions, more effective production, and also more sustainable production, of course. And what happens when you have a lot of returns? There is no profitability in the e-com part, because if you need to keep shipping the garments back and forth to the customers, it's not profitable anymore. And then you put that demand down the line. So there are no new investments to make sure that you have a healthy business ahead. This has actually driven something that I think is good, that a lot of retailers or brands in Europe are looking for more local production, closer to the market, and more demand-based production. So, fashion retail, it's an example of where policies and customer behaviors has had the effect of the business, both on a sustainable perspective and also a profitable perspective. And I mean, since there are a lot of returns in this area, the biggest supplier to the warehouses are the customers. And this is a very manual process for garments, for example. You need to look at it, the garment, you need to smell it, and you need to rewrap it. It's very manual, and it's a big cost in those kind of businesses. But we believe that digitalization and sustainability goes hand in hand. So we need to make sure to use and create digital tools in order to actually become more sustainable and profitable.
Great, Caroline. So please bring this perspective into this part of the presentation where we look into this distribution center and this highly automated process with this perspective that Caroline explained, with a lot of manual returns from the customers. This picture shows Albert Heijn's distribution center a couple of years back. Albert Heijn is the biggest food store or supermarket chain in Holland and Belgium. more than 1,000 stores and 100,000 employees. And if you look carefully on this picture, you see actually people here. This is a couple of years back, so you see people doing a manual pick of customer orders, but also driving the forklifts. And the basic structure here is that you have a control center verbally communicating the instructions to the drivers. And you can imagine the situation when you have a lot of these going on at the same time and high pressure. This is very hard to optimize. It's very people depending. So when Caroline runs the forklift, it might be much faster than when I do it. So it's very hard to predict really when what's really the outcome of the warehouse. And people also make mistakes, and that's a big problem for the industry as well, damaged goods. So the industry is going this way, turn off the lights in the warehouses. And of course, that's a long-term goal, and that's maybe not happening today, but the industry wants to create a predictive flow. And you don't want to have the dependence of staff. You want staff, you want skilled staff, but you don't want the performance or the output of the warehouse to depend on who's working. And a lot of people working today in the more manual operations are hourly contracted. So on Monday morning, you don't really know how many you are. And you can imagine that situation Black Friday. So that's very critical. So what happened in this case a couple of years back, they decided to go for something else. So they contracted a Vanderlande, a Dutch company, working on these type of systems owned by Toyota Logistics. And I'm going to show you a short clip of what it looks like today in one of the warehouses that are running in the southern part of Holland. As you can see here, it's a huge site. So this plant is handling everything from inbound goods from suppliers to outbound orders to shops and also to end customers, e-commerce customers. Basically, it's automated, and everything you get when you get new type of products into the warehouse, you teach the system about the size and weight in order to be able to calculate the packing of customer orders, but also the storage. So this example shows how a pallet is being filled to a store. All the goods that you store are also automated in this way. So incoming and outbound is handled automatically by this type of robots and automated systems. So in this case, you pick it up for a customer order and you depalletize it, and then you put it in this type of trays using robots. And so when a customer order is going to be so to say configured, you pick all the boxes and the products that you need from this system. And as you see in this matrix, you can reach every position automatically. And the nice thing here is that this picks the products in the right order. And they also have, and they're using, of course, all the data to do this packing optimization of the storage as well as the shipments, so to say. So this is very advanced, and the technologies here is obviously the automation part with I mean, huge complex system with robotics and automated guided vehicles, the forklifts without drivers. Sensor, I want to highlight a few things here regarding man-machine interaction. That's really critical because people are still working in this environment. That's critical. Connectivity here, of course, there's a lot of fixed connectivity here, but you also have a lot of moving parts. So I listed a few wireless parts here. When you want to connect this warehouse to the external systems, to the ERP systems and suppliers and customers, and maybe companies driving the trucks as well, of course, the cybersecurity is one big thing here to address. But what you want to do really is to do the data analysis. Based on the behavior and what the orders are, try to predict what you need to do in the later phases here on the supply for Black Friday, for instance, and ship. You want to optimize the stowage and the load carriers as shown in the video. Personal security, video analytics in order to emergency brake. Robots, for instance, is one part that is being used. And of course, it's a very complex system, so the predictive maintenance part here is really important. So connecting this, I mean, of course, it's easy to say that renewable energy is the nice thing here, but But that might be hard to do. But really connecting and see the complete ecosystem is really the critical part, and where you can save a lot of efficiency and energy going forward. And then there's of course a lot of challenges here to fine-tune these systems. What happens when a person parks something in the wrong spot, or when you have damaged goods? Of course, that needs to be handled. So with that, I'll move over to Caroline. What happens when customers are not following this mainstream flow?
Yeah, what happens? Well, I mean, there are a lot of tech tools in order to make sure that you reduce the returns and reduce the deliveries. And one strategy is to make it hard for customers and consumers to return. Perhaps you have experienced that you need to very tricky way to print your own parcel or return label, or perhaps a very expensive return fee. That's not the way to make this sustainable. You need to make it easy for customers to make the right choices in the first place. So here are some examples of how you can use tech in order to actually make that happen. NEXER has developed an AI, AR, VR tool in order to make for Skoret, one of the shoe retailers in Sweden. You're able to scan your foot, and the app, it's actually an app, decides what shoe size is the right size for you in that particular brand. So that's perhaps it's easier for you to order one pair of shoes instead of 2 or 3. And then there's a very good plugin that you can use on your website. It's called Easy Size, and helps you to understand what size is my size in this particular brand. So a lot of retailers have started to use this. Then we have, this is also a very good example, a platform called EasyCom. You can put smartness on top of your ERP, your VMS, and your CRM system in order to make the return flow visible. Because the customers, they register the returns, and this is also applicable for claims in both business to business and business to consumer, in order to make it visible. Where are the returns? And how should we actually route them? Because is it a broken garment? Please, dear customer, can you recycle it locally instead of shipping it, or route it to the warehouse, or route it to a hub? So this is also a very smart platform in order to make that easier. Traceability, to make it traceable for the customer. This is actually based on a tool, Papertail app, located in Malmö actually, in cooperation with the fashion center in Borås and with Gina Tricot. They had one sprint of a collection where they traced the footprint in how much water was used and the carbon dioxide footprint for one collection. And you can trace that from its born through the entire life cycle. So that's really astonishing how you can trace that. And it's all based on blockchain and AI. And then a couple of weeks ago, I met Lynn, and she's the CEO and owner of PopSwap app. And as I said, the biggest impact on the sustainability in fashion, it's actually the production. So once the garments are produced, use them. So she has a Tinder wardrobe app where you can actually upload your wardrobe, and then you go into the app, and you, like Tinder, you swap what garments do you like, and then you find your fashion twin, and you can swap clothes with him or her. So that's really cool.
Yeah, right. So wrapping up the presentation, what Caroline explained is one great tool to reduce the returns and save on the environment. There are two areas that are critical in this huge ecosystem, and one is the last mile delivery. And you see PostNord here in Sweden putting up the parcel lockers outside apartment buildings right now in order to get closer to the customer, because the last mile delivery of the parcel is really hard to optimize, so you want to get to that point. Two examples from California: Nuro delivering groceries, automated vehicles to your sidewalk. You pick it up and you bring it in. Amazon doing a similar thing. And these companies are running trials right now in California with this technology. So it's really interesting. Drone inventory as well. These warehouses are highly automated. Inventory is still a manual operation. It's really hard to do that when the system is running. So companies are trying out this. This example comes from MIT.
You can see if there is a future-proofness in each business, in each company, and this will drive the investors, the customers ahead. So this would be a big change. And we believe that tech will be one key in order to make that happen. And the other part is also to hook arms. I love your association. I mean, you hook arms and you really partner up. And I think each company cannot have all solutions and all bricks to the puzzle. We need to work together in order to make this happen. So that's it.
Yeah. So with this, we want to say thank you for listening and open up for questions.
Yes, thank you very much. Thorén and Martin. It's really, really interesting. I think every one of us has seen, either looking at ourselves or our children or family members who are ordering things and sending them back and forth, and it's really terrible. So positive that things are happening in this field. We can find solutions to create a more sustainable chain, logistics chain. Mm-hmm. So let's open up for questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay, Erik, do you want the microphone? This is Erik from SONY.
Yeah, my question is, the very grim picture you mentioned or showed on the fashion industry. How fast is it moving, or is the fashion industry more into greenwashing than anything else?
I would say that there are a couple of initiatives. For example, there is a footprint index where it's like a consortium where fashion industry has put their hands together and really trying to understand how should we score the impact and the actions they are actually doing within the fashion industry. But I would say it's not moving fast enough.
Thank you, Erik.
I have a follow-up to that.
Yes, Ola?
So do you think, that's very interesting, I think. Do you think that perhaps the fashion industry is underestimating the customer views on this? I know in some circles, I mean, if you look at the younger generation, fast fashion, that's a bad word. Mm. You don't want to be associated with that part of the fashion industry. Do you think that maybe they are seeing a wave coming that they don't know it's a tsunami?
No, I think the awareness is there, but actually the things that needs to be done needs also the push from the customers. And the customers, I mean, as I showed, we are not actually paying the price for what the garments actually cost, because there are no reinvestment in making them even better in the next version. So we are not actually paying the price. So if we ask customers, if I ask customers in different surveys, most say that they will buy a garment, even if it's not as cheap as they are used to. But what we see is they don't act like that. So we need to, I mean, the customers, they can of course choose, but it's the retailers and the companies that need to make the change. So actually H&M is on the 8th spot in the most sustainable retailers globally in the new index, but they are also not doing enough. And there are a lot of retailers that are not doing enough.
Thank you. I think we have time for one last question from Stefan at DMatch.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm curious about the ending of your story here about sustainability reporting.
Yeah.
Because I work a little bit with that at the moment, and I know there are several global standards. Are there coming one standard for all industries, or do you talk about the fashion industry?
No, that's a global standard. It's presented now at COP26. So it's not implemented yet, but it's there and hopefully decided on this. And Sweden is actually driving this very much in that forum. So that's, I think that's a key point, because that will drive the money and the customers.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the questions, and let's keep on discussing this during the bingo afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Martin.
So unfortunately Mineta could not join us, so I'll have to do this by myself. So I'm Erik. I'm representing a Lund-based scale-up called SONY. Specifically an entity that is now since about a year and a half, 2 years, called SONY Network Communications. And when I talk about SONY Network Communications and the activity that we are doing, we are very much focusing on the heritage we as SONY have, I guess to say Skåne in the context of mobile height, but in Lund, the birthplace of mobile communication. We had a lot more people. We've had a lot different names, but what we are left with now is a quite strong R&D and innovation setup, and a setup for trying to bring some of these technologies out to become businesses. And I'm heading one of these businesses called VISILION. I have 2 other counterparts working with other business within the wearable IoT connectivity areas. One is Nimue, that had an incredible boost during, and still have, during the COVID times, in helping companies to have safe workplaces, of allowing people to come to the offices, having a respect for the density of people in the offices or spaces, planning it, all kind of activities around that. Really helping global companies around the globe by now to get their employees back into the offices in a safe way. The second company is M-Safety. M-Safety is working predominantly within the long-term health monitoring space, different couple of use cases, but having a wearable technology, a watch type thingy, but in comparison to your Samsungs and to the Apples, actually allowing the company that is creating solution to have control of what is happening on it. So it's more a variable platform that is being used for to extend, for example, within pharmaceuticals, biotech right now, where you do long-term patient monitoring when you do different kind of drug tests. A little bit more on the fund side, they are working with a what do you call it, a maritime safety company in providing a solution for servers to be able to monitor them when they go offshore, that they come back shore again, and if they don't, you have a pretty good idea of where they are in the water, so you can come and pick them up. And then lastly, VISILION. We are a company that provides a dear child, many names, I guess you would call it, but cargo and asset tracking solution, or supply chain visibility solution, or if you want to talk Gartner language, then it's real-time transport visibility solution. But really what we are doing is that we are we're not solving problems, unfortunately, but we're actually helping companies to understand what is going on so they can solve their own problems. And when you talk within the space of logistics or supply chain, a number of things are really driving the pain for supply chain managers. Normally say that you have a black swan event every 20, 30 years, something like that. They seem to be popping up like crazy right now, and particularly within the supply chain environment. So aspects of just understanding where things are, so you can take action on if they're not where they're supposed to do, be able to deal with your risks in your supply chain and take actions on those. And when you say risk, you also take disruptions and bottlenecks, which we are seeing across the board. I highly doubt that we'll have a lot of Black Friday offers this year. I guess we should just be happy if the shelves are not empty. Distribution capacity, what you guys were showing is absolutely amazing. The only thing that I didn't see in your slides, now it says no reason for me to get up here because you guys already said everything, right? Was drone deliveries, which is certainly also coming along the way, and then things that working with vendor performance, actually understanding who is doing well and who is not doing well, and ultimately for everybody, efficiently deploying your working capital, and all of that is we as VISILION trying to help companies working with. So what we are is that we are, I need to read this, otherwise I can't remember it by heart, a business-ready end-to-end solution for global real-time cargo and asset tracking and supply chain visibility, which includes both the hardware components of the tracker sensors and the cloud service, whereby you can understand and visualize the sensor input if it makes sense for you or not. And last but not least, the critical data component that allows you to make the right decision both in the moment, but also when you aggregate it for flow management and stuff like that. So very simplified, we are trying to help supply chain managers answer 3 critical questions. Where is my stuff? When will it be where it's supposed to be? And how is it doing on the way? Very simple said, and I could say thank you and sit down when I've said that. But let us, since a smaller part of Sony is in the movie business, so let's take the opportunity to also show that.
Problems faster, improve efficiency, and reduce costs. VISILION tracking and supply chain visibility solution gives you the power to make informed decisions so your delivery can run as smoothly as possible. It lets you know where your goods are, if they have been handled correctly, and whether or not they will arrive on time. VISILION provides detailed insights about key events, such as positioning, arrival and departure times, late deliveries, and route deviations. It also keeps track of the condition of your goods, if they've been exposed to shocks, tilts, and temperature changes. VISILION comes with trackers with sensors, a cloud service, and a web interface. Simply attach the tracker to your cargo or individual pallets, connect the tracker to a shipment, and you're good to go. VISILION provides you with everything you need to better succeed with your deliveries and improve your business. VISILION. Now you know.
And really our tagline, now you know, is becoming more and more important, and for us is really driving a whole understanding of this, because getting the power of the insight helps people to make the right decisions. And that both goes, there's a partner from Boston Consulting Group a year ago, I guess by now, a year and a half ago by now, in the beginning of the pandemic, when everything was still good and we thought 2 weeks of lockdown would be it, right? Talked about the aspect of what we need now is certainly the agility to be able to make the right decision in the moment, but also help to drive resilience. So make the decision for multi-source and what you have and this and that, so you have a business continuity. And I think that encapsulates very well what not only we but the industry are doing, or we and our competitors are trying to do in the aspect whether we are, as we are, believing that controlling the hardware component, that the tracker is important for us. We believe that we can do things with that by controlling the hardware, optimizing that, or a number of companies that are simply aggregating sensory data and then displaying as close to real time as they can, or in a more aggregated view. But again, really, ultimately, the three use cases that we are talking with customers about and driving a lot of this is, the ETA. Does it have an impact on my manufacturing planning or my distribution or whatever? And if it does, what do I do to counter that? Keeping sensitive goods safe and impact. So again, that is the condition monitoring aspect of what we're talking about. It can be perishable goods. No, you don't want rotten meat hitting the market, or IKEA's meatballs, so on, something like that. But even more simply said, it's things that can break. And we're working with an automotive company that is distributing windscreens in the aftermarket, where they're seeing a lot of breakage, a lot of damage, a lot of cost related to that. They want to understand, well, two things, or three things, I guess. Where is it happening, and why is it happening, and what can we do about it, right? And working with a US manufacturer of glassware, actually checking out which routes, which modes of transport can I use for my goods. And they actually thought that by using ocean freight was the safest way for get that stuff to the customers. And they ended up shifting to rail transport because it ended up showing that in terms of impact on movements during the transport, there was a lot less damaging than ocean freight was in the handling of ocean freight. The last use case is about, when we talk about valuable goods safe. And I'll use an example for when November, well, exactly a year ago, basically, when we had the launch of the PlayStation 5. Very important not to lose your PlayStations at that time. And in the case of Sony, we had supply chain security monitoring teams monitoring every single container that contained PlayStations. You want to know if it did what it's supposed to do, if it looked like a deviation, if the container doors were open when they're not supposed to open. And in some geographies, we had urgent response teams standing by to go out in downtown Malmö and make sure that these containers or these PlayStations were not stolen. So, the James Bond aspect of it is nice, but a more practical question when you talk about valuable goods and safety of it is, does it arrive to the secure warehouse on time? If I'm not on track to the secure warehouse on time, which secure location can I put it at until I can deliver it, something like that? But many aspects of, only 5 minutes? Holy moly, I'm just getting started. So let's switch from those to sustainability. This is not a product presentation, only from VISILION, but what similar to echoing what you're saying in terms of sustainability. Over the last year, every single conversation we've had, unfortunately only team calls, right? It's been brought up by the counterparts I've spoken with. How can we drive sustainability in supply chain? How can we do something about the carbon footprint with what we're doing, right? It is super, super important. And looking at driving out the carbon from your supply chain, it is of course not only about the transport, it's also part of packaging and getting rid of the return and stuff like that. But it's really for companies helping them to align their business goal with the interest of the planet or their sustainability goals. And in terms of when we talk about sustainability in the supply chain, one thing is the material waste and packaging, everything like that. But also, how can, by understanding what is happening, then you can make the right decisions in terms of how you do your distribution, which affects also your emissions. I think that's a relatively common knowledge of. It's actually a very large percentage of our foodstuff, of our agricultural products that are lost before they hit the customer. And then we don't consume it and then throw it out on the afterwards. But so it's really, I guess we could feed the planet over a couple of times if we got that right. Did I do something wrong here? Okay. Some of the driving forces that we've seen for this conversation is, well, the good thing in my line of business is that the last year and a half, besides not being able to meet people, has truly put visibility in supply chain up the corporate agenda. I was talking about, supply chain managers are normally in the basement of the buildings, right? And they've been invited into the boardrooms by now, because suddenly your distribution, your logistics supply chain is business critical. It stopped working. And we're looking at a profound interest in how we can drive down your carbon footprint. And you can see now, you mentioned COP26, every single shipping company or logistics company out there committing that they're going to be, well, they're saying net zero by 2050, but if they could be zero by 2050, that would be even better. And it means that companies are investing massively into new fuels, into whatever it is. They're even talking in the container industry, if you've noticed it, they're actually talking about, could we put in nuclear engines in the ships, right? That would be sort of the ultimate thing for that. But I need to be, you're scaring me with the time there. But really what we're saying, both from a practical point of view, what we're enabling companies to do now and what we and our competitors say are enabling companies to do is, of course, to make the right decisions, whereby taking the action that will cut down emissions. And I say one thing that is also interesting that we're seeing is that the amount of data, amount of information becoming accessible to us is becoming better, because for those that you are involved with calculating your carbon footprint, then you know that that's done based on statistical models and approximations, which means that you can be off by quite a bit, right? What we're seeing now, through the knowledge of insight of what is actually happening, more and more, you could actually get the data, foundational data, that allows you to know exactly what is happening, what is your exact carbon footprint. And you can do something about it. You could have a conversation with your vendors, your suppliers about it, or if they don't move forward, you can actually take an active decision of changing it, because you know what they're all about. And we are not there yet. When we talk about supply chain sustainability, it's certainly aspirational. But when we look at getting access to the data, there's a, I don't know why I want to say Israeli, it's Icelandic startup, relatively startup, called Ankeri, that is focusing their business on providing exact data for both the fuel uses and the carbon emission profile of ships, of cargo ships. And that means, and it's for the chartering market predominantly, but that means both the ship owners that charter these ships or would buy ships, they actually know exactly what they're buying, and they know I can work with an old, badly maintained ship by a non-reputable Southern European ship owner. I'll say Greek, but they are renowned for that. That's going to be cheap, or I spend money on someone that I know that I get a vessel that performs well, is well maintained, good fuel consumption. it's going to cost me more, right? And that thought that suddenly this data is becoming available to make those decisions very important. And you're seeing a Danish shipping company that's now a part of the Emirati DP World group called Unifeeder. They have actually, as the first shipping company in the world, is now providing exact data to the customers on their carbon emission per, cargo, ton, kilometer, whichever relevant metric they're doing it, right? Unfortunately, they are not covering the global spectrum, but for example, I can say IKEA is embracing this, even though that some periods is less good than others, but at least they have the right knowledge to make the right decision, whereas others prefer to come back to the statistical models. But it is a journey, and that you can take the journey when you know what is happening, and that's really what we and our colleagues and competitors in the market are moving towards, providing the exact data, because when you have the data, then you know. And then come back to why, at least for us, I really like the tagline that I have inherited. I didn't come up with it myself, but I inherited, because now you know encapsulates so much things that is right. Customers are happy, employees are happy, your brand is good, if I should get to say that. Thank you.
Where are we on the sort of complete transparency of the supply chain, of this Bitcoin protocol following the goods from the farmer to the end product in the store? It's a very complex task that I know Maersk have been looking into for years, but like, where's this vision and how do you interact with this and where's the future of it? Thank you.
Thank you, Erik. For me, well, I think we're not there yet, of course, but there are some good examples, I would say. We have a customer, Oatly, and they have, they are born and raised in this region and have a sustainable product in the first place. And they have, they are showing their numbers and really pushing the industry. Show us your numbers to make sure that get that transparency, and I think that's actually the key to start there, because all this greenwashing and vague statement in the advertising, it doesn't help customers, it doesn't help us to get there. So, yeah.
Maybe I can add to that, Caroline. The key here is really to change the customer behavior, right? So getting that transparency. When you place the order, today I see the price and delivery time. I don't see the environmental impact, right, when I choose the t-shirt. So the data collection and transparency throughout the whole chain is super important. But giving you an example, we talked to companies like what I'd shown on the video a couple of minutes ago. It's highly automated, and it's connected and have full transparency on that stage. Now they talk about yard management. Okay, what's outside this building? How do I connect? How do I keep track of my inventories using these technologies? How do I speed up things? And then you have the even wider perspective. If all the load ports on this warehouse is fully blocked, then of course it's super smart to communicate this to the truck drivers to slow down the speed on the trucks, save diesel, and of course giving some good feedback. But these things has to be worked on, right? We're far from there right now.
I completely share your view that while a lot of things are happening, if you look at the full scope of what can be done, then there's still, we're not going to be out of a job for a long time. That's for sure. Talking about from farm to fork, massive stuff to be done. No, what we're touching now, we are still on a per cargo unit or per transport unit level, right? If we could just achieve, the integration into what's happening in the warehouse, so you have from shelf to shelf, at least from what's typically within the scope of the logistics managers, supply chain managers, that would be a big step. But then, from shelf to shelf, then it's from, out in the stores, from the farm to the fork. Massive things can be done, and part of the reason is that the answers are not there yet. You have multiple initiatives with blockchain to document things, but if we want to track it, there needs to be some kind of piece of technology on it, and certainly what I'm trying to sell my stuff for doesn't allow me to put that on or doesn't allow the company that wants to sell it to put it on every single roll of toilet paper, right? And ultimately that is the level, and I guess also the price point we're looking for to really enable this, or new technologies come that, there's a lot of work going into, for example, smart labels. That is a part of the answer to a certain level, but to achieve the true granularity, we can follow things through and planning and have the data for the right decision making. Still a couple of months down the road.
Thank you, Erik. Thank you.
I just want to add there, because I liked a lot with your platform is the insight part. I mean, a lot of companies have a lot of information and insights, but you need to make those actionable insights and do something about it. It's perhaps not the right action the first time, but the second or third. So take action.
I love that word, actionable insights. That's a great expression. Thank you for that. I'll keep that in mind. Do we have any more questions? We have time for one last one.
Stefan has one here.
Yes?
I imagine this is not about devices, but part of your solution is devices, right? Are those devices reusable?
Yes.
They are. They can be used over and over again.
Yes. Which is, you talked about reverse logistics, or in the context of e-com. It has been a choice for us, and from a design point of view, it's put into to make it a long-lasting product that can serve its purpose for many years. However, companies are really looking for something that is cheap and quick and can be put on, and then don't worry too much about the reverse logistics of that. That is it's a double-edged sword when it comes to that, because while you can say that we have a background as a technology company, whether it's manufacturing, being good at manufacturing hardware or developing solutions, but actually we see that we need to take a profound interest in how our customers or partners would be using this, because otherwise this thing that's supposed to last 5 years lasts 3 months, right? And ends up in a trash can in Tasmania.
The value is in the cloud, of course. The value in the sticker is nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's just a tracking device.
Yeah. So I think that'll be part of the technological evolution, that we're looking at also hardware components that fit into a logistical flow, where we can optimize where the right cutting point would be between single or few terms used devices versus multiple recyclable devices. But it's all, I think, as what you've been dealing with has been thousands and thousands, 100,000, 1 million moving parts, right? And I think in our industry, this companies can deal with a few of these tracking solutions, the tens or the hundreds and stuff like that. And certainly, if they have tens of thousands of them, they 100% have a process for how to deal with that. What we're really looking at is sort of bridging the gap between a couple of hundred to a couple of 100,000, where our participation in making it work is quite important.
Thank you, Erik. Thank you very much. I think we have one last question from Ola. Did you have something?
Yeah, I want to put a mundane end user question, perhaps. So I don't know if it's true or not, but we are all tracking our packages with these apps, and I understand that there is actually one message you can get when you track your shipment, and it's fell off ship, which means that the freight container has popped off the ship somewhere.
That's why we have a humidity sensor.
Yeah, that's good. But my question to you, Erik, does the VISILION solution, can you handle that scenario when you're in the middle of the ocean and the container just pops off the ship?
The humidity sensor.
The humidity sensor, yes, but can you track that in real time? And if not, do you have any plans to upgrade the technology to?
You're absolutely right. We and everybody else right now, we're basing ourselves on degree of cellular technology. So I say that the premise of getting a mobile signal to work in a steel box in itself is a challenge, right? Then you take then you take a steel box and put it in the bottom of the ship. Then you're quite certain what kind of reception you're getting there. So it has its limits, but we're actually seeing when stuff is on board, on the deck, we're actually able to achieve connectivity when there's something to connect to. And we are looking at satellite connectivity. Is that an option? You have Inmarsat that just got acquired by Viasat yesterday, I think it was. That actually looking at how they can enable the sort of IoT devices on board the vessels. So that might be a part of the answer there, right? So you could basically conclude when you stop having a signal, something is wrong, right? But certainly it is a challenge, and there are not at the current moment perfect answers for that, except for the humidity sensor.
Thank you very much, Erik. We have time for one last comment from Martin, and that will conclude.
I just want to add to what you just said here. Connectivity is of course key to get access to all the data, and there's some global challenges here, right? But also then, when you have that, you want to trust that data, right? And so that's the second question that arises when you have the connectivity. How can I really trust the chain? And maybe blockchain is a solution to try to kind of authenticate all that, so you can trust it. But there are many areas to work on here.
Thank you all very much, and with that I would like to give a big thanks